doing okay?
You look like what's the guy's name in World War II? Roy. Your nose is cut off. Much better.
It's like everybody. Hey, Char.
That's like the students do on virtual, Denise. They only want you to see from here up.
I see Miss Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hey.
How's your garden growing? Is it coming back?
It's super dead right now, but it's good. I've expanded it a lot. You got to come see.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
monitoring your garden regularly.
Yes.
Now let me ask y'all, how often have y'all been doing Zoom meetings? Are you doing it twice a month, or are you doing it every week, or what's your frequency?
Generally twice a month.
Second and fourth Tuesdays.
Well, let me make y'all aware of something, because you know sharing is a good thing before the meeting starts. The Memphis Rotary Club has been doing what's called a food event. It's a mobile food event, and it's held in the parking lot across from the FedEx Forum, adjacent to St. Patrick's Church. And the next one is Friday, the 29th of January, and it's a touchless fundraising, a touchless service project. The last one we did on the 23rd of December, we fed 550 families.
Wow.
And it's a joint venture between the food pantry at St. Patrick's, the Mid-South Food Bank, and a couple of other organizations. And we had about 36 volunteers. All of the materials are brought by the pallet load. We were under tents that Mahaffey Tent provided. And basically you showed up and people had pre-registered through the Mid-South Food Bank. They drove up in their car. They never got out of their car. They popped the latch on their hood or their back door, and you set food in the car. And we had 5 different stations. So by the time somebody pulled through the line, they basically had the equivalent of a week's worth of groceries in their car. It is really well done, but it's an easy volunteer opportunity if you're interested Friday. And you can do it in 2-hour slices or the whole morning.
What time does that start, Gray?
It starts at 7:30. I mean, you can't miss it. If you're on MLK Drive, as you're driving from the interstate going up to the FedEx Forum, will be on your right. St. Patrick's is on the left, and the parking lot, it's in front of St. Patrick's. It's a neat opportunity. Joe Birch from NBC is the lead person for the food bank for St. Patrick Church and for the Memphis Club, and it was a lot of fun. So everybody's got to wear a mask. Everybody's got to do all the safe distancing things, but it's a really we've been this will be the 5th one. It's a real nice opportunity to visit with Rotarians, help a needy help, and you can plug and play, so to speak, and you don't have to have any skills in advance. We're creating 5 different baskets at 5 different stations, and maybe there are a dozen people at each station working. And when the cars start rolling in at 8:30, it's just like an assembly line. It's really neat.
Great.
So
we'll pass that on. Yeah.
7:30 on the 29th.
We'll pass that on. AM, right?
Correct.
Now, Gray, will Taylor be sending out reminders to people? She's been pretty good about sending us other notices from Memphis Rotary.
The answer is she is, but she's not sending them, I don't think, broader than our club.
Okay.
So I wanted to just make the opportunity while I was with y'all to let you know about that. I can send a reminder to any one of you if you would like that. If that's helpful.
I can check with Taylor.
Okay, do that.
Yeah.
Just tell her I mentioned it, and I think the opportunity. Anyone that can participate, it's an opportunity to see how it's done and to plug into something that's already
right now.
Sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you, Greg.
It's a good deal.
Right. Dustin, are you ready?
It looks like we just lost the congressman. He was here for a few seconds.
Okay, Dustin, you ready?
Welcome, Congressman.
Hey, Charlotte, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Always good when I'm in your company.
Okay. Well, you know, you're my brother. I know when to call on you. I just didn't know I'd be so lucky this time.
Well, I can't say no to you.
Thank you. And I want to really send lots and lots of flowers to Patty. She has been working with me on this since October. And she has not hung up on me once.
Patty's real good.
Right. She needs a raise, Steve.
Thank you. We try to have the best staff, and we've got a great staff.
For sure. Dustin, you're going to introduce Steve?
Sure. Yeah.
Steve, I want you to meet a young man that's up and coming. This is Dustin Kane.
Hi. Where is he?
Right here.
So yeah, I will introduce Representative Steve Cohen. Thank you all for being here. I had the opportunity to see Representative Steve Cohen speak previously at Momentum Nonprofit Partners at a web event in December, discussing what nonprofits can expect for the rest of 2020 and 2021. Some of his recent contributions to Memphis are the Water Resources Development Act, that will transfer the city of Memphis flood control responsibilities to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the National Defense Authorization Act, which will also increase the service pay for service members and prioritize the needs for Memphis. And he has also helped award grant funding assistance to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for medical training, Shelby County Head Start programs, and the University of Tennessee for vision research. Representative Cohen, thank you for all of your hard work, and we're happy to see you safe and healthy with us tonight. But today we are looking to discuss and learn more about current issues and possible solutions being talked about in Congress.
Thank you very much. First, I want to say hello to all the Rotarians out there. I know you do a lot of good work, and over the years, you've been the leaders in the fight to eradicate polio, which is very meaningful to me, and I thank you for that. I also I might have to go a little early. I don't know how long the timing is, but I'm speaking on the floor tonight at some point and kind of watching the debate on the rule on the 25th Amendment resolution, but I'm speaking on the resolution, so I presume it'll be some time from now. I guess at each Rotary meeting, I think, and if I recall correctly, y'all do a four-way test, which is kind of the Rotary slogan, service over self. And I looked at this test and I thought about it last week in reference to Donald Trump. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? I don't think Donald Trump is a Rotarian. And I will be speaking on the floor urging Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to have the cabinet remove him from office because of disability. The resolution, I'm sure, will pass, and then tomorrow we will have a resolution on impeaching him for the second time. The only president in history to be impeached twice. Today, Liz Cheney came out in favor of impeachment, as did John Katko, the first two Republicans, and Liz Cheney's in leadership of the Republicans in the House. And that was very appreciated. I saw Liz Cheney walking through the rotunda, and I was sitting in there. I sometimes go in the rotunda and sit by General Eisenhower and Dr. King and do some work away from the chamber between votes. And I just saw Liz and I said, Liz, bravo. You're my hero. She's been doing a great job and showing leadership when very few Republicans in the House have. Today, Mitch McConnell said he was in favor of impeachment and thought it was a good thing that it was being brought. So things are changing. At one point, nobody would have thought, and Mike Pence would get together the cabinet and ask them to remove Donald Trump. I doubt that will happen. Mike Pence showed some courage this past week when he didn't do what President Trump wanted him to do, which was to overrule the people's vote and to change the votes of 5 or 4 states to make him president. It's not the way the country's supposed to be. Power comes from the people, and the people vote. And even through the representative system of the Electoral College is still the people's votes that elect the electors. And it's not up to Congress to make changes in what they did. Now, the system foresees the electors possibly voting for somebody other than the person who had the most votes in their state. And at the time of the passage of the Constitution, the electors knew more about the candidates for president than the people. There was no media. There was very different from the Washington. The candidates were better known. They had electors who would know them. And sometimes they might want to vote another way. It hadn't worked out that way, but that was the purpose of it. But it was never for the Congress to change the way it would come about. That's never happened, except maybe in 1876, in which was the disgusting Hayes-Tilden election that ended Reconstruction and led to about, what would it have been, 54 and 24, 74, at least close to 80 years and more in reality of Jim Crow. That was the deal. So we're going to vote tomorrow on impeachment of the president. Today we're encouraging the vice president to do the 25th Amendment. Both are, people have said you're not going to get the vice president or the cabinet to act, and probably not, but you never know. Things are changing, and Republicans are bailing out fairly frequently, pretty regularly, from this president. Many corporations, Chamber of Commerce, head of the Chamber of Commerce had said what happened was despicable. And he condemned Trump. Several large companies, including Hallmark, have condemned Senators Cruz and Hawley and said they want their contributions returned. What we saw on Wednesday and what I experienced was a coup attempt on the United States of America, encouraged by the President of the United States, which is kind of hard to have imagined, but it happened. And I've seen it coming for the whole time Donald Trump's been in office. That's why I brought the first complete impeachment resolution against him in the fall of 2017. Obstruction of justice for what he did with Comey, and he did a lot more obstruction. But Bill Barr has hidden it from us in a redacted release of the Mueller report. And even then, Mr. Mueller said he didn't find that there was obstruction, but he also didn't exonerate him. And there were 10 counts. He said it was up to Congress to decide if there was obstruction, basically saying in terms of impeachment. And there was obstruction. And when we see the redacted portions of that report, we'll even know it even more clearly. But he'd also attacked the press. He'd attacked courts. He had obstructed justice with Jim Comey, which we knew, and firing him because he wouldn't go along and with him and help him out in the Russian investigation. That was a long time ago, and there weren't many people with me then, but I was right. And I've been right all along. This man is not mentally capable of being president. He has a mental illness, narcissism, and sociopath. He has no empathy, he has no care, he has no compassion. And it's been seen as of today. He still doesn't recognize what happened on Wednesday. 6 lives lost, 2 policemen, 2 Capitol Hill policemen, 1 beaten to death and beaten with a fire extinguisher by this mob that he incited. So you got to be tough. You can't be soft. You got to be tough, and you got to fight to protect our country. And you got to go down to the Capitol. And if you don't, we will lose our country. And he invited them here early in December and said, come to Washington, January 6th, it will be wild. His son got up and said, you had to fight. Giuliani got up at the rally and said, let's have trial by combat. This was unbelievable. If it was a movie, an Orson Welles movie, you'd have enjoyed watching it maybe, but you wouldn't have believed it. We've seen those type of movies and series that showed the falling of democracy in our country. There was one that was on Netflix, I believe it was. It might have been one of the other programs that are internet mediums. But it was about the same thing and saying how we could lose our democracy and you've got to watch out. we almost lost our democracy, and we're trying to rein it in and bring it back. So that's what's going on up here now. Last week was one of the most eventful weeks I've ever had, anybody ever could have as a legislator. We came up on Sunday. We elected Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker. She is a very, very focused, bright, capable leader. The best vote counter probably ever in the Speaker's chair, and she has great stamina. She's 80 years old, and she outworks anybody up here. She, in fact, is the most active person probably working in the federal government, and she doesn't play golf. So we elected her, and then we came back for the Electoral College, and we got the votes were there for Joe Biden, 306 electoral votes. Little did we know we'd have this invasion. I was up in the visitors gallery. We keep people off the floor the best we can because of coronavirus, and was told to be calm. They were locking the doors. Doors were locked behind me. I was in the gallery, as I say. And then I heard banging on the doors. Again, something out of an Orson Welles movie or worse. And then we were told to put our gas masks on because they were beyond the statuary hall, and they were on the way up to the House chamber. And we put our masks on, and then we were evacuated. I came here to my office. Give me a second. I got my baseball bat out, and I sat down and I watched the news. And if by some chance somebody got in after I double locked my doors, I was going to swing the best I could because that's all I had. Fortunately, a lot of the Capitol Police did a great job, and the DC Police did a great job, and they thwarted them to some extent, especially the DC Police. We got the Capitol back, and we came back and completed our work and finished the Electoral College. I got 5 hours sleep 3 days in a row. I normally need 7 or 7.5. I was pretty ragged on Friday after 14.5 hours sleep over 3 days. But I tried to reach people and reach out and learn as much as I could about what was going on. And then we learned today we were going to bring the impeachment resolution, which I'm pleased about. And I flew up here, ironically, through Dallas. It was weird. It went through Dallas, not ironically, but just our air traffic. We don't have a nonstop flight to Washington now. So the best flight was to go to Dallas, and I'm here. I'm going to work on trying to get a infrastructure bill passed through Transportation Committee, which I'm the 6th senior member on the Democratic side. And I'm going to try to get the best we can for Memphis out of that, of course. I've had conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris, who's never been to Memphis, but she says she has a lot of support there and would love to come to Memphis about helping Memphis. We are a poor city with many needs. We need to try to rectify them. I've tried to get Memphis designated as a promise zone city. It was not successful during the Obama administration. Secretary Castro told us we were like 2 away from being the selected area. There were 8 areas chosen, and then we get it in the next round. We had Trump, so we didn't have a next round. But in this round, I'm going to try to go to Biden and Kamala Harris and try to get that done. I'll give you a stat here, which is shocking to me, but it's reality, and it's awful to see. This is from the Census Bureau 2019 Community Survey. My district, Tennessee 9, is the 424th in the country in capital income, $43,000 ahead. 424th. So we're going to make a case. I've talked to Cedric Richmond, who's going to be working directly for President Biden, also a friend of mine through the House, about getting Memphis a promise zone designation. And then we're going to try to get all kind of other grants for Memphis, which we've been successful under Obama in getting the grant for the Mississippi, the Harahan Bridge that I worked with Charlie McVeigh on, and we were able to get that bicycle walking path and improve the downtown mall. And then that was a Tiger grant, and we'll have Tiger grants this year it'll come through transportation. Hopefully we'll get another one from Memphis. And of course we got the large choice neighborhood grant for downtown and New South City. So we hope to get grants for Memphis to help us. We hope to get legislation in the infrastructure bill to help Memphis with our airport, our highways, our railroads, and our rivers, transportation, our cargo, and try to help provide jobs. I'm on judiciary. We will work on trying to look back at what happened and to make corrections to our laws to see that the constitutional responsibility of Congress to do oversight is not impeded, that our warrants, our subpoenas are honored, and that they're not thwarted by dilatory tactics in court, which has happened and stopped us from getting information which the American people needed. We'll have a whole lot of legislation there. We're going to try to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, which with a Democratic majority in the Senate now, we can do that. And that will restore the Voting Rights Act, which has unfortunately lapsed. The Supreme Court ruled that a bill that many Republicans supported and George Bush supported didn't have the sufficient criteria to justify the designations that were in the law for suspect areas, question where they had to go to the Justice Department for pre-clearance. So we hope to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Bill early. There will be other legislation that's been put on the back burner that will help restore democracy. And that's something judiciary will concentrate on. And we'll do our oversight. I may be on another committee. We won't know that yet until the week's over. But I think it portends good for Memphis. Memphis has got a weak, limited tax base. Where our property, people can move, as we well know, out of the county, Mississippi, Arkansas, or rural West. So there's only so much we can do with the property tax. Otherwise, we lose more and more people as the property tax goes up. And the sales tax is already woefully high, and we don't get enough from Nashville. Never have, never will. So our best hope is the federal government. And I have done all I could during my previous 14 years to get grants and monies for Memphis, and we will continue to do that. And I think we're going to have some good successes in the coming couple of years. With that, I'd like to yield for questions if there are any, and I'm happy to respond. And Charlotte, take it away. Are we still there?
Yep. So it looks like we do have a question in the chat here from Charlotte. What can we do to assist in the promise zone designation for that funding?
Well, I appreciate the offer of help. The main thing is I'll be working with Mayor Strickland. He and I have a good relationship, and be working with him to come together with a proposal. And that'll be the major thrust. I may call on Mayor Harris as well, but I've generally worked with Mayor Strickland in the past. And when I had the last Promise Zone effort, I know we work with Mayor Wharton. I had a good relationship with Mayor Luttrell. He might have helped too. So we'll probably try to get both mayors involved for sure.
Awesome. I had a question about COVID-19 vaccination and the phases specifically for Tennessee. So for Tennessee, with the phases, what do you think of how it's organized in comparison with the CDC recommendations?
From what I understand, and most of my knowledge comes from reading newspapers and listening to my good friend and my doctor, Jeff Warren. That's a good source. It looks like Tennessee's doing a pretty good job on getting people vaccinated. There were some problems at first. I know at Lindenwood Christian, they had suggested that people could come in at a different age group, and they corrected that as soon as they found out they made a mistake. But I think we've done pretty good on vaccinating, and I think we've done a pretty good job on testing. We've been a total failure on masking, and that's why Tennessee is one of the worst states in the country on the coronavirus. It's why, thank you, sir. Thank you. It's why we were #1 in the country just about 3-4 weeks ago, but Memphis and Shelby County ranked pretty high. People wear masks in Memphis, and I'm proud of Memphians who do that, and everyone should when they're in public and when they're indoors.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have a question here from Emily. I'm not sure how you are on time, but we'll try to get to the questions that we got here in the chat. Is there any increased opportunity for more passenger rail opportunities under Democratic administration, do you think?
Well, I will try. I'm a big rail fan and always have been. But back when I was in the state Senate, I remember in the 80s, I was pushing for the second train to Chicago and continuing a train that stopped, I think, in somewhere in South Illinois. It might have been, I don't think it was Peoria. It's a city that's got a kind of a name that could be pronounced two ways. I'm trying to think what, it's not
Cairo.
Cairo or Cairo, right? That's it, it's Cairo. Yeah, and that train from Cairo to come down here. And so I'm going to work on it. But right now, Amtrak's not doing real well because of all the COVID. And they'd be lucky to get their routes that they've got that are plentiful back on in schedule. So it's going to be tough because of COVID to get it done. You know, I'll advance it and promote it, but it's going to be difficult.
Thank you. And then we have a question here from Denise as well. What are some ways that we could try to bring together more people and prevent this polarization from happening, especially with how divided the vote count has been with the popular vote?
People just have to come back to understanding there are facts. There are not alternative facts. We started the Trump administration, and this has been the biggest assault on the truth and facts and science in the history of this country. And his aide came out and said there are alternative facts. There are no alternative facts. There are facts. And there was not an illegal fraudulent election. It was the most transparent, fair election in our nation's history. There have been more court cases. There have been more officials of the Republican Party, the losing party, who have said it was fair and clean and there were no problems with it. But this president is psychologically incapable of accepting defeat, and he always casts the blame on somebody else. Even before the election, 6 months before the election, he said if he lost it, it would be because it was stolen from him. And he said that mail-in voting was rife with fraud. He already was suggesting he wasn't going to get the mail-in votes. He didn't mind the mail-in votes in Florida, where they predominantly older retirees who voted for him. But he didn't like them other places. He didn't like them in states where people didn't want to vote because they were afraid they'd get the coronavirus going out. And we needed more mail-in voting. We needed to increase the franchise, but also during a pandemic. And those mail-in voting were passed by state legislators. And in Pennsylvania, it was a Republican state legislature. And in Arizona, it was a Republican state legislature. And yet he still complained and complained and complained. He complained in 2016 that he wouldn't accept the results of the election because it was going to be rigged. But he won. So even the fact that he won, he claimed the election was rigged and he wasn't going to accept the results. The man is worse than Sidney Schlinker was. I've said many times he's a combination of Sidney Schlinker, Joey Cooper, and God bless him, he took us to the Final Four, Dana Kirk. I mean, he couldn't tell the truth and never has. So we have to get beyond that. We have to accept the truth. We have to accept that the media is not the enemy of the people. And the media's got to get straight because some of the media just fed into him and they did it for advertising dollars. That's Fox News, that's Newsmax, and that's the OANN. But there are some and the New York Times and the Washington Post are not communist papers. There were signs, tons of signs on them when I came to work on Wednesday from these people that were protesting about the Communist Party and the Communist China Party and suggesting that we were part of it. We are not. Democrats are not communists. I was not for defunding the police. I've started out as a police attorney. We need more police on the streets. That patrol is a deterrent to crime. But we are not communists. We are not socialists. And Mo Brooks suggested the other day, after he got up and rallied the crowd, spoke in Alabama and said he's not concerned about what he did, and he'll always fight against anti-Christian socialists. Well, I've never heard anybody come out and say such a thing. Basically, he's saying Jew to his people in Alabama. And I'm putting together a group to respond to it. That type of attitude doesn't belong in America, let alone the Congress. We are a country of immigrants. We're a country that accepts other people's religions. and we come together and try to work together. And that's what we've got to do to get beyond this, is stop doing things like anti-Christian socialist and calling Democrats communist and saying that there are alternative facts. And that's just not the reality. And the Republicans who are now saying, oh, you can't do the impeachment, this is going to divide us more. They need to come forth and say, Joe Biden won fair and square. There were 62 court cases that said he won fair and square. And what they did was following the rantings and the pleadings of a sociopath who couldn't accept his defeat. So there's a lot we need to do to come together, but the Republicans need to start it because they're the ones that have gone down this rabbit hole, backed this president, and covered up the Mueller report. I mean, listen, the Mueller report, the American public should see it, let alone Congress. And we've seen every report, but we've been thwarted on this one. So getting back together, it's going to be difficult because a lot of the country, I read some polling results that said 52% of the public thought that, only 52% thought Trump was responsible for what went on Wednesday. And 26% of the Republicans thought that Biden was responsible for it. That's insane. So we need some leaders with some courage like Liz Cheney, and she's been a leader for a while, and Adam Kinzinger, and some Republicans who will face up and tell the truth. A lot of them who thought that way left. Congressman Mitchell from Michigan and Congressman Rooney of Florida. I tried to get them to vote for the last impeachment. Couldn't get them to do it. Mitchell has since left the Republican Party, didn't run for re-election because he couldn't stand Trump, and he's become an independent. Rooney couldn't stand Trump. He's left, didn't run for re-election. Charlie Dent didn't run for re-election. Peter King didn't run for re-election. So many of the Chuck Percy, Nelson Rockefeller, Howard Baker, Dirksen Republicans have left the Congress, and they need to come back, and they need to be vocal, and they need to show leadership. And people in the community who are Republicans need to show leadership too, and speak up, and speak out for the truth, and speak out against this president who, you know, he is mentally ill, and he could do damage. We know he's going to issue more pardons for his family, and who knows who else. His pardons are all about himself, but he could start a war. And Nancy Pelosi has talked to the Joint Chiefs. The Joint Chiefs put out a very, very rare type of statement today to say we need to not get involved in politics, and we need to respect the rule of law and respect that we work for the Constitution, not for Trump. But he's right now very low, very down. He's a loser, which he hates, and he's liable to try to go out with a bang. I'm afraid he'll try to bomb Iran and claim that he's done something heroic by dropping a bomb. It could be nuclear. It could be a bunker buster on their nuclear facilities. And that will be hell. And that will leave a mess for Biden to deal with, which is what he wants to leave. And we don't need to be the country that drops the atomic bomb. We did it once before with good reason to do it. We saved a lot of troops that would otherwise died in invading Japan. But this is not the same circumstance. We get back in the diplomacy with the Paris Accords, the Iran Agreement. We can move this country forward, and we can regain our position in the world nations as a leader and as the kind of country that we used to be, that was respected around the world, a beacon of hope and a beacon of democracy. Right now, people can't believe what's happened. And I can't believe what happened. It was...
Steve, I'd like to follow up on something you said about mentioning diversity. I think that the beauty of any country, any organization, any relationship is really about diversity. Listening to each other, not necessarily agreeing, but at least listening. And, you know, you know this, Steve's father and my mother were best friends. Now, I mean, how could that be? They were as different as anything. That's what makes Steve and I brother and sister, because we had different mothers and fathers, but we were actually siblings. And the relationship that they had, as different as they were, and as many different opinions as they had a great relationship. And I think that sometimes we forget to reach out of our bubble or out of our circle of friends, or even out of our present relationships, to actually seek relationships to those that are different and diverse. So thank you for doing that, Steve.
Well, Charlotte, thank you. And that's so true. We need that in Memphis so much. So much we need to do that, reach out. And there are a lot of people in Memphis that are doing a great job. I mean, Mason Hawkins and the Cates brothers and their father and Pitt Hyde and a lot of the wealthier, more successful people in Memphis do a lot in trying to make Memphis better and invest a lot of their money. And they do it by going into education for inner city neighborhoods and healthcare areas. And they're really trying to do a lot. We've got a lot of citizens. Mr. Plow kind of was one of the starters of all of this, but there are a lot of people have taken up the mantle, and there's some hope in Memphis. What the Community Foundation did in helping to fund groups throughout this pandemic and by helping fund Lemoyne Owen College with $40 million was extremely admirable. And so we see things that are really positive in Memphis, but we all need to get behind them and do it and reach out through MIFA, reach out and help the food bank and try to help people that are in distress. So many people in Memphis don't have enough money to feed themselves and their families. And they need healthcare. We have health deserts, we have food deserts. People can't get, it's not easy to get to a grocery store. They don't have grocery stores. They don't have good fresh vegetables and fruits to eat that are nutritious. They don't have opportunity. They're not that close to the community health centers is the closest they've got. And they do a yeoman's job, but a lot of doctors aren't in the inner city. So we've got a lot of work to do. And that's where I put a lot of my emphasis on helping community health centers, trying to get a food desert bill passed. I thought I had Walgreens one time. This was way back. I had Walgreens on moving in that direction, and they backed off on trying to put fresh fruits and vegetables in their inner city Walgreens. And it's, for some reason, it didn't happen. But I'm going to continue working on it. And FedEx does a lot of good. I shouldn't have left Fred out. FredEx.
You're muted. Oh, no, you're not.
Go ahead, Pam.
Mama Gwen's kids.
I see and hello. So good to see you, Steve. I see that you have been supporting the Electoral College initiative, and I see Shar has a question about that too. How's that coming, and what do you see about its possibility of passing?
I've introduced it. It's going to be tough to pass it because too many states benefit from it. The smaller states, and you've got to get 3/4 of the states to ratify it. And most Republicans won't support it because they benefit from it too. But the Electoral College does not work. And we saw it this week. It could put that into the hands of Congress people and senators. Who's our president? And it never should be that way. That's not the way it was intended. And it was intended for the electors to be people that you elect. Let's put it, the Louis Donaldsons, the Gwen Austins, that they would be, if they were put back in time, back to the future or back to the past or whatever, and they be the electors in 1796, they would have known more about Washington and Jefferson and Adams than people would have that lived in the hinterlands of Memphis. That was a small town. It wasn't even a city till 1819. So just a few people here on the river, but people didn't know about it because we didn't have news stations and internet and newspapers. And they were supposed to vote who was the best person and make sure that a scallywag didn't get in office. Well, it hadn't worked that way. And we elected a scallywag. And it's got to be where the electors just do what the people vote, and the electors don't put their better judgment in play. So with the purpose, the Electoral College has been thwarted over the years, but it's going to be tough to change because the Constitution is hard to amend. But it needs to be amended. It came out of slavery to a good extent. The southern states wanted more representation. That's why they came up with 3/5 compromise, the slaves to be counted as 3/5 of a person. That gave them more numbers in their congressional delegations, and which gave them more numbers in the Electoral College and more sway over who was elected president. They didn't do that because they thought, well, of slaves, the slaves got nothing out of it. It's just the slave states got more representation in Congress than they otherwise would have had. And that's where this all came out of.
DC statehood?
That may happen. We've got, it's a marvelous thing. It kind of gets lost. On Tuesday night, we elected John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. We've got 50 and with Lisa Murkowski on some votes, but also with Kamala Harris as the tie-breaking vote. we can pass DC statehood, and we should. And we saw this week where DC couldn't just call up, they don't have the power to call up reserves. And when the Congress needed the reserves to be called up and brought to our aid, we couldn't get them. We had to get them from Maryland and Virginia, and the Department of Defense wouldn't work with us either. There was something going on that wasn't right. Our leadership they've all resigned, the Sergeant at Arms and the Chief of the Capitol Police, they totally failed. I had spoken to a Capitol policeman at length on Sunday, and I said, I think Wednesday's going to be crazy. And he said, yeah, our intelligence tells us it is. And yet they didn't act. But DC statehood would be important for them to have the National Guard, and the people should have a right to vote. Their congressman doesn't have a right to vote in Congress. They have representation, but no vote. And the same thing for a senator. And they should have representation in the House and the Senate. And they should have, they should be the 51st state. And I think it's gained a lot of momentum. Joe Manchin came out for it recently. So I think the Democrats will be united on that. Next, that's an American colony. And the idea of having or not a colony, but it was like a colony, American protectorate. And Puerto Rico deserves statehood as well. I visited down there for the first time last February, and they're American citizens. Trump didn't know it. All he knew was that they could catch paper towels.
This is disgusting, really.
Nice to see y'all.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks.
There are other questions in there.
Dustin, you want to get those other questions?
Yep, I can read those. So from Mr. Drummond, are there any good fact check sources that you would recommend to help counter misinformation in the media? And we've seen recently different social media platforms working to combat fake news or misleading information. Just wanted to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
This is Mr. Drummond. I yield my time to Albert Harvey's question, which I think is more significant.
Well, there's the name of the group that does the check. I used to know it. I can't think of it right now, but there's some group that does that. You can go to automatically. It tells you whether things are true or not.
Snopes and PolitiFact.
Yeah, Snopes.com. What's the other one?
Two examples.
PolitiFact.
You like K-Row? You need to be on Quiz 'em on the Air or whatever, Jeopardy.
That's good.
So looking at
Harvey, are you out there?
Al's out there.
I am here. I've put a question, Congressman, and to be answered by you, if you would take a look at Section 3 of the 14th Amendment concerning whether or not the Congress would pass a resolution.
I've drawn that up today, Al.
Say again?
I drew up a resolution that's gone to Ledge Services already to lay out what Trump has done and that he's committed insurrection against our government, and that takes a majority vote of the House and Senate, and that would relieve him of any opportunity to run for office in the future, take away his pension, take away Melania's pension, Melania's guards, you name it. We need to take everything from him. But that's an excellent idea, and we've been working on Article 14, Section 3, which was a Civil War amendment, and he could get it back, his rights back with a 2/3 vote of the Congress. Right now, he can't get anything.
That's good.
Last time I saw you, I was going to that CVS.
That's
and
right.
I never gone to that CVS because I was protesting them tearing down the church, even though I know the church sold. I didn't like the idea of that church being torn down at Cooper and Union. And in fact, I've got a picture of the church on my wall, just to my left here. But when I was 11 years old, I took a picture from the service station of John Kennedy and his automobile with Buford Ellington sitting in it. And John Kennedy was up on the back of the convertible looking right at me. And in the background is that Methodist church. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like that church. But they took it down. I hadn't been in there and left a Tiger football game. And I just thought, I'm going to go in there, and I got it over with. And I don't think I had a mask when I saw you. I just totally forgot. The lady looked at me and, oh, my mask. Good to see you.
Well, we're glad that you survived Wednesday okay. I know that some of your colleagues were hunkered down with and exposed to COVID, which I thought was really a poor thing to happen. I don't know where they were kept, but that was not a good situation.
They took but just about most of the people on the floor and other people, more than the floor, they took a lot of people over to the Longworth building, into the Ways and Means Committee, which is our largest hearing room. And some circumstance when there was some problem with the chambers, they held Congress there at one point. And there were at least 6 Republicans who refused to put their masks on. And there was a representative from Delaware, Rochester Blunt, who went over to each of them and offered them masks. And they looked at her and almost mocked her and laughed and wouldn't put them on. Well, it turned out apparently one of them was COVID positive, and the House doc put out the note to the people that were in the room that they might need to be tested or be quarantined, and 3 of them now have come down positive with COVID. And that just, we've got a Debbie Dingell and Anthony Brown have put in a bill to our resolution to change our rules to say that you have a $1,000 fine if you don't wear a mask at any place indoors in the Capitol. And I'm going to support that. You know, Al, when I left Washington last Thursday, I was in the waiting area at DCA at the National Airport.
Right.
And there were a lot of Trump people there, a lot of them who had been here for the riots. And hardly one of them had a mask on. I could hardly find a place to sit down because there were so many people there without masks. And then when they got on the plane, one guy I saw, they handed us hand sanitizer. And this one guy took the hand sanitizer, dropped it back in the basket and said, COVID hoax. I mean, it's like this is part of their initiation. They were acting like they just come away from a convention, like it had been a fraternity or sorority convention or a Rotarian convention. It was like a convention. And what these one lady said, we had to come. It was our country and our Constitution. I mean, they are so deluded. And it's because of Trump, but it's also because of his enablers. And I call on everybody, every Republican that's out there that voted for Donald Trump to face the truth that this man was not mentally capable of being president, and he needs to be removed from office, and he never should have been in office, and he really never should have gotten out of the military school he went to. There's a reason they sent him to military school at an early age. Now, some people may go for different reasons, but we know why some people go.
He went.
Did you go with Wyatt? You were younger than Wyatt Chandler. Why did you go to military school?
I had to.
I had to.
The CMA just for one summer. That's all it took.
I think, did Wyatt go there? Wyatt Chandler? Did Wyatt Chandler go to CMA?
I don't know if he did.
He went to a military school in Middle Tennessee. I think it was CMA.
Okay.
Well, I love Wyatt. He was a bear who I learned from.
I did too.
He got into a lot of business. He was young, I think.
Yeah, Wyatt went to Castle Heights.
Castle Heights.
That's where the real troubled kids went.
Wow.
They didn't come back.
Al, did you grow up in the Midtown?
Yes.
I know you did. I wonder if Al Harvey did.
I lived in Midtown until I was about 7 years old, and then moved to Knoxville with my family.
We're glad you survived that. Came back.
You didn't know Wyatt Chandler on Peabody. I think he was pretty much he was well prominently known on Peabody.
What's another question? Sensible.
So it looks like another question we had from Mr. Carter. So there appears to be more reports of groups reorganizing with the inauguration coming up. What other steps are being taken to prevent these events? We had a report yesterday, an intelligence report that was really scary.
There are 4 different groups that they have found through intelligence, looking through the internet and all. Could be puffery, but it wasn't puffery last week. That they plan to have the largest armed march ever on Washington. They want to shut down Washington. That they want to surround the Supreme Court, not let anybody in or out, surround the White House and protect Donald Trump, and surround the Congress and keep Democrats out and let Republicans in. They've said they have rules of engagement. They're not going to fire the first shot, but if they're fired on, they will respond. We're going to have 14,000, at least 14,000 guardsmen, 7,000 per 12-hour shift, protecting the Capitol and the Capitol monuments in D.C. We'll have at least 200 sharpshooters. And we have told the Capitol Police, no more of having some lieutenant tell your people not to use live ammunition. If anybody tries to get over that fence, they need to be examples. There's an 8-foot fence up. It's got some kind of wire on top of it that's supposed to be such that nobody can get over it, but we'll see. Somebody gets over it, they don't need to go any further.
Whoa. What about the state capitals?
State capitol is supposed to be, and the date is targeted for Sunday the 17th. Why? And then they're going to come back to the inauguration. But the 17th is the big day, and they want to go after state capitals too. We've got a congressman, a woman named Boebert or something from Colorado that was elected.
Crazy.
She's a nut. Yeah. And she posted at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 6th, this is 1776. She knew what was going to go on, and she's a QAnon supporter. They knew that this was going to be a war and a disturbance and an insurrection, and she encouraged it, and she tweeted or texted out of the Capitol, I think it was a tweet, that Nancy Pelosi had left the chamber. She was not doing that just to give notice to her constituents. She was giving notice to her violent constituents because they were after Nancy Pelosi. They would have killed her. And they were hollering about Mike Pence to hang him. They had gallows. They had gallows up on the mall. And these guys, one from Nashville, some Looney Tune that got fired from the bar on Lower Broadway that Steve Smith runs, he had those ties, the handcuffs like. And another guy did, a colonel in the Air Force. They came up to take hostages and maybe take lives. Fellow from Alabama they arrested had 10 Molotov cocktails and all sorts of weapons. This was a bunch of thugs, a bunch of degenerates. They were the scum of the earth. Deplorable is a level above what they were.
What should happen to the 147 Republicans who, even after this was, in my view, an attempted coup and an insurrection, what should happen when they voted the way they did after having been reconvened?
Ethics needs to look at it. I'm not sure what should happen. If nothing else, I think they should be censored. I mean, you can say that was their political judgment, but Marsha Blackburn and Bill Haggerty came back after being on the team full scale after the riot and the evacuation of the senators. They changed their vote and they upheld the challenges. Well, when you're further right than Marsha and Haggerty, you're in foul territory.
Yeah.
You're not even in right field.
Yeah, not in right field. Well, how do you see the Christian?
There's been an allegation that Mo Brooks, Andy Biggs of Arizona, and Gosar of Arizona, Paul Gosar, it was said by Ali Alexander, who's one of the heads of this effort, a QAnon guy, that the three of them worked with him to strategize this and to have the chaos peak when we were in the Electoral College. And that's what they did. They should be expelled from Congress if those facts are true. And there needs to be a thorough investigation. And if it bears it out, they all three should be expelled.
Mm-hmm. Well,
This was within one week of them taking their oath.
Right.
Well, getting back to the states, what's Nashville going to do to prepare for the onslaught?
I have no idea what they're going to do, but I guarantee you they'll be maskless. There will be no mask in sight.
No masks.
Oh.
Craziness.
That seems to be his prime concern, is giving people freedom to die.
Mm.
But I don't know what now. I'm sure they'll try to get prepared, state troopers and you name it. We'll have our share of crazies probably go to City Hall. And the Memphis Police Department needs to be prepared. Some of these folks will go to City Hall because they probably don't know any different.
Steve, we know you have to get back, and we certainly appreciate you taking this time for us, because this is a very crucial time, and for you to take time out of this in this very negative time with our whole country, and to spend this time with us means a lot to us, and we appreciate it. And I don't want to pass without. I mean, I think about education. And your promise and and the years that you took to get that promised scholarships and everything available. Maybe some of these people need more of that promised scholarship.
Well, they need something. They need hope and promise, and it all comes out of the lottery money. Haslam took some of that hope money and put it into promise. I'm not sure it's as effective as hope, but regardless, it's all because of the lottery and all because of the work we did, and I'm proud to have done that. But we do need, a lot of those people need education, and they need morality.
Right.
Most of them claim to be Christians, but they don't understand do unto others as you have them do unto you. They don't understand. He was hungry and I fed him. He was sick and I healed him. He was naked and I gave him clothes. They don't understand Matthew. They don't understand the basic precepts of Christianity.
Steve, is there any chance that we can bring civics back into education? Seems like so many people don't even understand the basics of government. And so they just think that, you know, if they vote for somebody, they should have the last word, as opposed to understanding basic civics. Well, you're exactly right, Bill, that I support, and to have civics taught in the public schools, it needs to be. That's so important, and seems like a no-brainer, but we don't have. Tell me your name. Denise Bolheimer. We know each other from we do. It's just Bombay and way back. Yeah. Well, nice to see you. You look so good. It doesn't look like you'd even remember Bombay Bicycle. Yeah, my great grandmother told me about it. I got you. Thank you. I want you on my team that we get for the trivia contest.
She's the right one. She's the right one. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. I know you have to get back and take care of us in a big national way, and we really appreciate it. Can we all give Steve a hand?
Oh, we can.
For joining us tonight.
Well, thank you, Rotarians, for all you do. I appreciate you, and it's nice to see you even from a distance. And thank you for keep doing your good.
My best to Patty.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Char, thanks for arranging this.
Char,
well, it just happened. It just happened to happen at the supreme time. Who could have guessed?
Thank you, Char. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Justin, thanks for hosting.
And I couldn't do it without my team. This is really for me more than a team, particularly during this time. This is a family, and I really appreciate all the support and all the encouragement that not only I get, but that the board gets, just to keep plugging away and not let things get stagnant, and just keep going no matter what goes on in our world, our community, just to keep it moving and to keep it positive. Thank you for everything.
Thank
you. Thank you, Char.
Thank you, Charlotte, for always including me.
Thank you.
Doing a great job, Barb. Come back.
I have to.
Oh, and
thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. And 2 weeks from now, we'll have Douglas Scarborough talking about money from the Federal Reserve. So that'll be another interesting topic. Invite your friends.
Fair enough.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you again, Will.
I'll have an update on the Snowden essay contest soon.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Dustin. for hosting tonight.
No problem. Hey, Charlotte, did you get my email about the homeless consortium?
Right. And will you inform us on that and kind of help us with that at the next meeting? Let us know what that's about.
Talk about that too.
Right. That for our service, for another service project.
Cool.
Thank you, Dustin.
Awesome. Yeah,
and
no
I
problem.
got and I am a member. Got to send in my check.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. BJ, you didn't get to ask your question.
Hey, that's okay. That was a great meeting. I have to say, also commending Congressman because he's always there, like whether it's before, during, or after, throughout 365 days a year. So that's greatly appreciated. And also a very quick thanks to everyone who was a part of the End Polio Now Purple Pinky Day. You should have all received a receipt from the Rotary International. And this club is just very special. You're very focused on keeping the main thing the main thing. Got great leadership, great members, and I'm just glad to be a part of your team. And Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, BJ.
Doing a good job for us, BJ. Thanks.
In service, we leave you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.